Hey, welcome back to The Burn. I am Ryan Van Deaver, and we are presented to you by Hot Zone Sports. Remember, our show is wherever you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify. So if you could rate and review us, we would really appreciate it. If you're watching on YouTube, first off, congratulations and thank you. Secondly, subscribe to the show and then hit that notification button so you'll always know when our content drops. And wherever you like to social media, we are there. That's right. You can find us at Hot Zone Sports right there. All there. It's all there. Yeah, it's all there. So what is going on, everybody? How are you doing? How are you doing on this glorious Monday, November the 13th? What is going on with the Colts? We are going to address that today because just like you, or maybe not like you, maybe you just want to know more about the Colts. I'm here to give you that information. Another loss in another week where the offense was just stagnant. Not much has changed since Anthony Richardson has been benched offensively. Do the Colts have any type of direction? We're going to get into that. Should Shaden Steichen be on the hot seat? I would gander yes, but we're going to get into that as well. Shane Steichen and GM Chris Ballard always talk about accountability. But why isn't Flacco being held to the same type of accountability for how bad he's playing? That will be the plan for today's show. Oh, you know we had to do it. We had to do an episode where we talk strictly about the Colts. This episode will be about many things involving the Colts, from the game to the coaching staff to the ownership. It all needs to be discussed, and it will be discussed about in this episode. So sit down, buckle up, and enjoy the ride. Flacco started right where he left off last week, except worse. 46% of his passes go to Josh Downs every game. So the Bills obviously did their scouting on that. And in the first play of the game, the first offensive series from the Colts, it was a pick six from Flacco. This is 14th pick six of his career. From the first play of the scrimmage, you couldn't have drummed up a worse start for the Colts. Colts have 3 interceptions on Sunday and 1 fumble lost. Should have had a number fumble lost, but it was recovered. For the most part of the game, when the Colts were running the no-huddle offense, they were more efficient, especially Joe Flacco. A.D. Mitchell, he actually really came on this game with Pittman still being injured. He had 6 receptions for 71 yards. And most of the wide receivers, you had Josh Downs, 7 receptions for 72 yards. You had Alec Pierce, 4 receptions for 81 yards. And who could forget about Jonathan Taylor? 21 carries for 114 yards with a 5.4 clip. But we're going to get into that here in a little bit. Don't be too impressed with that 114 yards, though. The wide receivers, they actually played pretty good this game. They didn't have too many drops. It wasn't as crazy as previous games past, so they were more consistent. And it was A.D. Mitchell's breakout game. Basically, like he was on a roll this game. But this was the first time all year that the Colts lost by more than 1 possession. If you take that pick 6 away, it's not going to be like that. More likely than not, because the Buffalo Bills had a struggle getting anything going most of the game. The Colts offense scored a grand total of 26 points. They just don't score in the red zone. They don't score on a short field. They don't do anything. They do get big plays, but they never result in touchdowns. The defense looks like a top 10 defense right now after the start of the year, and the offense looks like the worst in the league. But don't let the stats fool you. If you look at the box score and it can look pretty delusional. Outside of that 58-yard run from Jonathan Taylor, he had 56 yards the rest of the game. Less than a 3-yard clip outside of that 58-yard run. Yeah, he had 114 yards rushing. But if you take away that big run, it was a porous day on the ground. Yeah, you may be getting more yards in the passing game, but if you're changing your identity midway through the season, what's the point? This is a Shane Steichen problem. I've been saying it for weeks now. This offense is broken, whether it's Richardson or Flacco. I mean, seriously, the Colts defense gave up only 23 points this entire game. The Colts could have easily won this game. If you didn't throw that pick six on the first play of the game, then it was going to be a 23-20 game. Josh Allen didn't throw a single passing touchdown on Sunday. Both touchdowns were rushing touchdowns. Josh Allen completed 59% of his passes for 280 yards and 2 interceptions. And he was sacked twice on Sunday and had a worse quarterback rating than Joe Flacco did on Sunday. And the Colts, both times they intercepted Josh Allen, they put the Indianapolis Colts in Buffalo territory, where the Colts came away with a whopping 3 points. If you don't feel bad for Anthony Richardson, then I don't know what to tell you. Because this type of defensive effort was what was missing earlier in the season when he was the starting quarterback and was constantly playing from behind. He wasn't allowed this opportunity with the defense that actually came up to play, giving them more ample opportunities. This defense has finally figured it out, and the offense can't seem to get anything going and give them any type of hope. Worse, what's the harm in playing a 22-year-old quarterback that's had 10 starts in his NFL career? I would rather suck with a young quarterback than stink it up with a 40-year-old quarterback. That's clearly not your future. That's why I am just completely baffled by this decision to just continually fall on the sword for a 40-year-old quarterback that's playing like absolute garbage. I just don't understand it. It makes no logical sense to me whatsoever. There's no sense in the future. It doesn't seem like this franchise has any awareness of what it takes to actually legitimately have a contending team. And if you're going to be bad with a young quarterback. If he's not the guy, then fine. You can go and draft another quarterback. Continue to roll out a 40-year-old quarterback that clearly is past his prime, that can't throw a basic pass at this point. I'd rather them do that with a young quarterback. That, yes, he has plenty of issues. I am not discrediting any of that. But at least you find out some sort of answer. But it doesn't seem like that is going to happen, and I genuinely just don't understand the point of this or the direction. It seems like there's no direction in this team whatsoever, and obviously no common sense. But, I had somebody told me a while ago, common sense isn't so common, and obviously in Indianapolis, they haven't figured out what that common sense means. But this is just baffling to me. To put it in simpler terms, the offense doesn't come to play, and all the pressure is applied to the defense to come up with stops. I actually feel bad for this defense. They force a couple of turnovers, putting the offense in prime position to succeed, and they crap the bed the entire time. If the offense is going to continue to struggle like they have for weeks, why not play the young quarterback? Just makes no sense to me. I know for a fact that he can improve the run game. He can avoid sacks better. He can give you more explosive plays. You can't debate this. Just look at the film. Week in and week out, you see a flawed game plan where the Colts are continuously just trying to throw the ball down the field, not taking what the defense is giving them, and this is the type of offense that you end up with. And the offense that can't score points when they do have a big play. They have no discipline on offense to not get a penalty. They don't use their running back that they paid all that money for last season in a holdout. And this is what you get. You get a team that cannot drive the ball down the field, except for that one drive last game where everything was just clicking. I said in a podcast last week that Coach Steichen needs to stop calling plays and pass the play calling duties to Jim Bob Cooter, the offensive coordinator. I mean, that is why you have the offensive coordinator, right? If you look at it, Sirianni did the same thing this year, but at some point, I think pride is going to have to come into question. I think he's too prideful to give up the play calling duties, and he is going to go down with that sinking ship. Now let's move on to Ballard for a minute. Quite possibly, Ballard will be fired at the end of his 8th season as the Colts GM. Ballard, with 1 victory and 2 playoff appearances and 0 division titles, hasn't done enough to justify his sustained employment. However, there is one superlative he's worthy of: the most overrated general manager of the 21st. Fairness to Jim Irsay, he only started the fire. Ballard, who accessibility and interesting conversation style has endeared him to fans and media members, has only earned more praise with fewer achievements than anyone in the business. But what has he done recently? The Colts constantly have plenty of salary cap space, and they never address a need. Just look at the offseason this year. They were lacking in the secondary. And what happened to the Colts during the regular season? Well, they lost 2 of their starting cornerbacks, and they could have addressed the depth issue in the offseason or even before the preseason even started, but they chose not to, even with the abundance of salary cap they had. He's in his 8th season, 1 victory and 2 playoff appearances, like I said, and 0 division titles. Something is going to have to give here, because you cannot continuously draft bad. The only position that he is draft well in is the linebacker position. How long is the Colts fan base going to have to deal with ineptitude and just have to believe in faith that the Colts are in good hands until Jim Irsay realizes we've had 8 years of just complete garbage football? Maybe it's time to move on. Shane Steichen again said Joe Flacco gives the Colts the best chance to win right now. Why? Veteran leadership? Didn't agree when he said this before the Vikings game, but at least there wasn't any evidence to disprove this. They've had their worst 2 offensive performances in back-to-back weeks with Flacco under center, and their biggest 2 losses of the season. So, in reality, what Shane Steichen told the fan base of the Indianapolis Colts was a lie. But I will be honest, I was one of those guys that wanted Joe Flacco to start, because you saw what he did last season with the Cleveland Browns and what Anthony Richardson hasn't done this season. I don't know if it was because Richardson lost the locker room after he tapped out, or whether it was because Shane Steichen and Chris Ballard got together and decided, okay, we have a playoff team. Let's start a veteran quarterback with leadership ability who will provide good leadership to the team and can guide us to the playoffs as a possible wild card team. Yes, that sounds like those 2 guys put together. Don't judge me. What has happened since the begrudgingly tapping out, though? Joe Flacco against the Buffalo Bills went 26 of 35 for 272 yards with 2 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, and a strip sack. You can easily argue the fact that he could have had more interceptions than he did with the wild throws that he was attempting. But for educational purposes, He had 3 interceptions, but he also contributed with a fumble. He was also sacked 4 times in the game against the Vikings, where he was 16 to 27 with 1 interception. So we've all heard that the Colts benched Richardson because of Flacco's leadership and experience. I get it. He's been in the league for 17 years. Plenty of experience. He's a Super Bowl winning quarterback. Plenty of experience. But when does it end? Because what has Joe Flacco done that Anthony Richardson wouldn't have been able to do? I would argue that Flacco hasn't done enough to prevent the Colts from not starting Anthony Richardson, because the Colts are in a very tricky situation. For the last 8 to 9 years, they've been trying to figure out the quarterback position. It's been a revolving door of ineptitude. But where they're sitting right now, you have a number 4 pick that you invested highly in sitting on the sidelines. But to what end? How is he going to develop into a starting quarterback if the Colts continue to sideline him and supposedly watch a professional quarterback who has experience? When does it end? And after they lose to the Lions, Jets, and Patriots, maybe then, they sit at 4-6 and shockingly in second place in the AFC South, and could walk out of this stretch sitting at 4-9. Then what? The season is a wash, and now you can start Richardson. How's that for confidence, Anthony Richardson? Future of your franchise. If anything, ever since Joe Flacco has been inserted into the starting lineup, the Colts have looked worse on offense, not better. We were told by Shane Steichen that Flacco gives the Colts the best chance to win. That was obviously a bold-faced lie to all of Colts Nation. Not only that, but I say this every single week. This was the worst performance offensively I had seen from the Colts this season. Yes, that is a fact. Well, it transferred over to this week, where the Colts couldn't get anything done offensively against what was the 28th ranked passing defense. And then they said, "Oh, that's just a one-game fluke. That'll never happen again." This last game against the Buffalo Bills, 4 turnovers. I personally saw a couple of times where Flacco could have been intercepted a few more times, but was dropped by the defender. I've said this a few times before, but are we back in the year 2022 where we have a head coach that has no understanding as to what is going on with this team? No understanding whatsoever. And an organization that continues to have no direction. Shane Steichen literally came out and said that it is not about one guy, that you have to have faith in Flacco. But wasn't it about one guy when he decided to bench Anthony Richardson for the foreseeable future? He is obviously a hypocrite in this situation. So you have 2 quarterbacks that can't really do anything. You have Joe Flacco. He gets sacked all the time. Can't seem to throw an accurate pass to save his life. And then you have Anthony Richardson sitting on the bench, because you pretty much told all of us that he wasn't good enough to quarterback this team, who struggles with throwing accurate passes unless it is a deep ball from time to time, but gives another element to the offense because of his legs. I get it. I totally understand that you are a first-time head coach, Shane Steichen. Yes, I'm talking to you, but stop trying to BS your way through the entire season. We all see it. We're not blind anymore. We saw it with Frank Reich. We were seeing it with you. You are one and the same. You were once an offensive guru that came from the Philadelphia Eagles, the offensive coordinator that took the Eagles to the Super Bowl, that coached Jalen Hurts, that's coached multiple all-pro quarterbacks. You drafted Anthony Richardson because you saw a dream. Now you can't get this offense to do anything. They had like one good drive the entire last game, and they had ample opportunity to show up and do anything with the defense the way they were playing. They gave them multiple opportunities, and still the Colts couldn't do anything. Not consistently, anyway. And then you have Kenny Moore. God bless this man, who comes out and says that he doesn't believe that everybody is giving 100%. I don't think everyone is trying their hardest. I mean, in reality, that to me doesn't seem like a well-coached team to me. The Colts are 4-6. I would like to challenge anyone who has watched any football in their life that actually knows anything about the game. Tell me why Joe Flacco should start over Anthony Richardson for the rest of the season. Because you are 4-6. There is no reason for him not to start, because the stuff that Joe Flacco is trotting out there is complete garbage. If I want to be a complete garbage team, then I will go ahead and trot Anthony Richardson out there. At least I would know that he is progressing week by week, and it would be something. But to have Joe Flacco to continue to go out there as your starting quarterback, your 40-year-old quarterback, who we already know what you are, to have you out there playing the same, if not equally worse, than Anthony Richardson. I mean, you have other players coming out, and the locker room seems to be pretty divided right now and fractured. Joe Flacco is going to be the quarterback until I say otherwise. This dude seems like the most power-hungry dude in this entire organization. He hasn't even come out and honestly said why Flacco is starting over Richardson at this point. I know. Bill Belichick wouldn't give an answer to the question either if he was coaching. I get it. But seriously, when you have your entire fan base, they are wondering the same damn question, it's about to pay the piper, because in your second year as head coach, you're only demonizing yourself. I mean, come on. In order to make the playoffs, you're going to have to win 5 of your last 7 games at a minimum. And you're going to lose to the Lions. There's no way you're going to win that game. They're the absolute most ridiculous team this season, the most dominant team this season. Argue with me if you want, but them and the Ravens are the top 2. So you're going to lose to the Lions. And the Patriots are actually looking better. So there's a good chance you lose to them as well. I don't know if you're going to win that game. How can you expect your fan base to believe that you're going to win these games when you can't even get anything on offense rolling? There's only 2 teams where I can see the Colts have an inside shot at defeating: the Giants and the Titans. And the Titans game is questionable. It's not even a home run. I don't see the Colts winning any games throughout the rest of the season. Why is Steichen continuing to go with Flacco? At this point, this isn't a quarterback issue. This is a coaching issue. Steichen turned Minshew into a freaking Hall of Famer for one season last year, and now they can't do nothing. The only thing he is doing to his head coaching career is shortening it with the Indianapolis Colts at this point. Another point, I know head coaches do not like making decisions based on their fan base. It's known over time that teams don't make decisions off of what the fans want. And I get all that. But when all the Colts fan base is calling for you to start Richardson over Flacco and you don't do it, you're only losing faith in all of your fan base. No big thing. The funny thing about this whole situation, and it's not really funny, it's kind of stupid, is the fact that all of the national media, when you ask about the Indianapolis Colts situation, the Indianapolis Colts quarterback situation, all of them have the same answer, which is start Anthony Richardson. But you're so adamant about starting Flacco because of his veteran leadership. How is that veteran leadership working out for you week by week, Mr. Steichen? I would say it's not working out very well for you. You continuously say that Flacco is going to get better and that the games are just getting away from him. He's been in the league for 17 years. And last year, around Thanksgiving, he was sitting on his mom's couch eating stuffing and turkey. You know what you have in Flacco. How can you come out and say that he's going to get better as a 17-year veteran, 40-year-old man? The more he keeps getting hit and pressured, the worse he's going to get. He's a statue in the pocket. Not to mention, you have 3 rookies starting on the offensive line with a statue. Yeah, that's not going to work out well. Here's a wild thought. It's crazy sauce. It's wild, so hold on. How about you throw out a quarterback that has some scrambling ability, that can get outside of the pocket and make plays instead of one that might shatter his knee if he moves? I just don't understand it. This could change over the next couple of days, as this is Wednesday, but Steichen needs to use some logic here. But to come out and defend Flacco at the press conference is just ridiculous. Everyone in the NFL are adults. Flacco is 40. I think he can take it if you come out and say that he had a bad game. And we're going to reevaluate some things. Keeping Flacco in there makes no logical sense. Right now, you look at the Colts, and they're one of the worst teams in the NFL, regardless of their record. They make the same mistakes week in and week out, and nothing seems to ever get fixed. It is the same thing over and over. Kind of like this episode. But something is going to have to change. Now, post into the comments if you would rather have your defensive coordinator be gone, your offensive coordinator, Jim Bob Cooter, be gone, your head coach, Shane Steichen, or your general manager, Chris Ballard. I will be very interested to see what you say in the comments. Because do you start with Ballard and then work your way to Steichen for another year? I don't know how that's going to work out, but I do know one thing. The Colts do have a very long road, and the AFC South is not uber competitive. You have the Jaguars who are struggling. You have the Titans who are struggling. You have the Colts who are struggling. And then you have the Texans who are above everybody else at 6-4 who are struggling as well, even at the quarterback position. I thought he was already supposed to be a Hall of Famer, but I guess C.J. Stroud is not. Thank you for tuning in today to The Burn and making it your first listen of the day. Follow us on all of your social media platforms at Hot Zone Sports. Right there. Right there. And join the sports pages that is meant for you, because this is truly why we do this, for the people. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, click that notification button, and have a blessed week. We will see you on Friday with another banger episode.